for us, some rendering, some 3D model assets for us. But yeah, so my name is Sharif, CEO for Antebellum Games Incorporated. We're based out of Toronto, and myself, I have spent a lot of time in the corporate world. I was a business analyst with TD Bank. Then I was a manager with Bella Direct, and currently I'm a consultant with Intact Financial, which is the largest insurance provider in Canada. And for me, I've spent a lot of time in the corporate space, but this is my first NFT project and company. But we are definitely approaching this as a company. And I've spent a lot of time in the space, though. I've been involved with crypto for many years and an early investor in a lot of the, let's just say, bigger play to earn games. Star Atlas, I was a pre-seed investor. Illivium, I was a very early investor. And with Illivium, definitely when I invested in Illivium, they definitely influenced a lot of what we're doing in the sense of just trying to unlock the full potential of NFTs and the tokenomics and the revenue distribution that Illivium has. Definitely inspired me, and we're doing things differently. And I would like to think that we've actually tweaked it for the better, which we can talk about. But that's really what sparked my interest. And I built most of this team has come together through the crypto space and partnerships and friendships that I've made throughout the way. So Steve Mifflin, for example, is someone who I guess you could say randomly met on a voice chat. And he introduced me to James, who's the CEO of Welsh Technologies. And, we had a conversation and I kind of saw the kind of projects he was working on and developing. And I saw a really strategic partnership there. So I actually met
Hey,
him.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. There's
Yeah.
some people in the chat that are having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. Would you mind maybe getting a little closer to the mic?
Is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm glad you stopped me. I didn't know, I didn't realize the mic was so far away. So yeah,
Beautiful.
so Steve is someone who I met in the VC, and he introduced me to James, who's CEO of Walsh Technologies. I had a chance to see a few of the things he was working on, and I actually saw a strategic partnership there. We could chat about that later if you like as well. Hilal, he's actually an engineer by trade, and he's also my younger brother, and he's currently our project manager. So he's the one that organizes all of the collaborations and collab requests, and he's doing an amazing job with that. It's funny how actually a lot of this stuff came together because Manny, who's our marketing director, I met him in Illivium. We were both early investors there, and his wife is is a brand director, and she has tons of experience in the industry, and she's the one that actually made our white paper. Like obviously I typed the information, but she's the one that made it look as nice as it does, and she's the one that made our website. She's not doxed. Um, but yeah, so it's kind of like everything just kind of fell into place. And we also hired, like I said, two new graphic designers and an illustrator who are doxed on our website. And Sora is a lead artist. She has experience in previous NFT projects, but as you can see, she didn't want to dox her details. But again, for artists, we hope that their work can kind of speak for themselves.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah, you guys have quite a team, and I think it's interesting that you guys are also working with family. That's definitely a very interesting dynamic to manage with such a large team. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the artist and also what has kind of inspired your guys' art as well as your in-game mechanics?
Yeah, so it's I always say this, but uh, tokenomics has been inspired by Livium. The game mechanics in terms of the Valerians catching them and evolving them is 100% Pokemon, and I would say the artwork has also been slightly inspired by Pokemon. We definitely looked at the simplicity of Pokemon, and we wanted to make it a little bit more detailed, but not a horribly amount more detailed. So the Valerian designs are definitely a little bit of Pokemon in there. And then I would say the actual gameplay for the battle, it's a real-time strategy, energy, and card-based game. And Clash Royale would be the closest there, and definitely some inspiration from Clash Royale. But we're not going to go with the top-down camera angle. We're actually experimenting with different camera angles. We want to keep it 3D so it won't be a side angle, but we're working on different camera angles and trying to find the best one that will show both your opponent's team, your team, the best angle to show the animations and get the most out of the animations. And so yeah, Clash Royale for the actual strategy in the battle. And finally, Smash Bros for our in-game collaborations. So we just announced Llamaverse today. There are going to be grass type Valerians in our game. We announced Cyber Turtles yesterday, Kaiju Kings before that, Wolves before that, and we have over 25 approved requests for in-game integrations that we're working on. Some are going to be Valerians, which again are like our Pokemon. Some are going to be champions, which are your character, and some are just going to be weapons even. Like Ascendants only have 2 NFTs, Gift of Zeus, Gift of Poseidon, so they're going to be weapons in our game. And we have multiple NFTs in our game, so just trying to find ways to integrate all of them. And I've said it before, we want to be like the Smash Bros of the NFT space.
Wow, that's awesome to hear. You know, lining up partnerships, I think, is such a big part of growing your project these days and properly marketing. So it's exciting to that you guys are getting so many requests for integration. So, you guys obviously are planning to release in Q4 of 2022, which is obviously definitely not ways away, but it's not now. Recently the space has experienced, things like Pixelmon, where people invest
Yeah.
a whole lot of money and projects are
Mhm.
not able to deliver. So, what is your guys' history as, a game producer, and how do you guys kind of, plan to not only provide value for your investors, but bring in those free to play players through your mobile game and kind of entice them? What have your kind of marketing plans been around that, and other like techniques or
Mm.
plans?
It's a very interesting question. I wonder if you heard a previous AMA or that's actually that's a I love that question because we're doing the play to earn space completely different from anybody. And earlier I mentioned our tokenomics were inspired by Olivium, but I also said we made a few tweaks. And so one of your points was like, we're making a mobile game, we're trying to launch it in Q4. Are we sure we can pull it off? Actually, starting off with the mobile game, there's a lot of reasons we started off with the mobile game. One of the reasons is mobile is built off of Unity. Most mobile games are built on Unity as opposed to Unreal Engine. So it's a lot easier to work with, and building mobile games are generally much easier than building PC games. Um, and, you know, another reason we decided to go the mobile route is exactly because of what you just mentioned. Our tokenomics is not built around the current play to earn meta, which is a high barrier to entry, an exclusive group that's making passive income, and then everyone else has to pay like maybe an ETH or 2 ETH to join the club, right? Like Wolf Game or Raid Party. Not here to hate on any other project, but that's just the current meta. And so our approach to this was, if your foundation is built on one thing and the only reason why people are there is to make money, then eventually when the money dries up, the people leave. So we're doing things completely different. Our tokenomics have been designed to be sustainable with a huge player base, no player base, a low player base, whatever the case might be. We've made sure that we've correlated our token distribution to the player base, which we can talk about more in detail after. But I guess the point being is we want as many players to join our game as possible. We have different mechanisms to control the barrier to entry to make sure it doesn't get too high or too low, because if it gets too low, bot farms could be set up. If it gets too high, then you can basically have no new players joining in. So for example, if a player joins our game on the mobile game, and because our mission as a company is to create fun and immersive games that are enjoyable, and then give ownership of those assets to the players. It's not about creating a game where people can earn money. It's about creating a game that's fun and you get to own all your assets, whatever you worked for, grinded for, found, found in a dungeon, whatever it may be, it's yours. And naturally, you can sell it. So naturally, the earning capacity comes organically, as opposed to the entire thing being built around the earning capacity. So we want as many players in as possible because our entire ecosystem is built around our token. Everything you do in our game has to be in the token. So we're going to have our in-game marketplace directly on the mobile app, and you can only use our token to buy, sell, and trade. All in-game purchases is our token. All in-game transactions, like if you want to evolve a Valerian, you got to bring 3 level 1 Valerians to get a level 2, but you also got to pay a cost in tokens. Same with weapon crafting and shiny breeding. So we've made the token the heart of our ecosystem. So more players come in, More players are going to need tokens to do different things, and that's how we put demand and buying pressure on our token. It's all about the token. So if a player joins our game and they don't have a wallet, they can play our free-to-play mode, but they won't have ownership of their assets, and the tokens that they receive will not be a one that they could sell on a liquidity pool. It will just be a proxy token. But let's say they catch a Valerian. They're going to get a prompt telling them that, did you know you can own this Valerian as an NFT? All you have to do is create a wallet. They click the link to create a wallet, and then they can come back, connect their wallet in the game, and they can basically start the play to earn mode. And because a lot of these newbies, let's call them, won't know how to use a liquidity pool, we're actually working and partnering with a company that will allow us to do the tokens, purchase the tokens directly in the app with a credit card. Now, of course, the iOS store is going to have a 30% tax on it. So if anyone buys the token on a credit card, they're going to have to pay 30% extra. But we want to make it as easy as possible to get all these new people in. So even though they'll be paying more for the token, at the end of the day, we've made the transition for them to go from never knowing what an NFT was to owning their first NFT as simple as clicking the link, creating a wallet, and connecting it, and then buying some VALS tokens on their credit card. And the mobile market has been completely untouched in terms of the crypto and NFT space. So we're really hoping that our mobile game can take all these users, these free-to-play users, and when these prompts come up, they click the link and create their wallet. Now they're a play-to-earn player with very minimal barrier to entries for them to join.
Nice, nice. That sounds like you guys really know what you're doing in the back end. And I wanted to ask, being that the Apple App Store doesn't allow crypto, how are you guys tackling that
Well,
for your
at
mobile app?
the end, yeah, so we're working with a company. The partnership hasn't been confirmed, but they've recently reached out to us and we want to announce this partnership too. And that's why we didn't put this part in our white paper just because it hasn't been confirmed, but this company is working on it. And the Apple Store is actually, in our opinion, I don't think we'll have any issues. So we've actually spoken with some lawyers, and you mentioned that they won't allow crypto. Um, this is something like we've looked into it. And wallet connection is possible on the iOS and Android. We know that we can get wallet connection on there, and as long as you have the VALS tokens in your wallet, you can do the purchases. That's fine. Off-chain is also an option, but we're actually trying to do all the transactions on-chain on the mobile app directly. And the company that we're working with, or we're trying to get a partnership with, they're called Subtho, and I know it's a partnership hasn't been confirmed, but they're working on exactly that. They're looking to build a fiat on-ramp onto social media and onto different mobile platforms. So that's the one that we're working with. So that hasn't been confirmed. That's just currently what's in the works for us though right now to try to get
Okay.
that fiat on-ramp on the mobile app.
Nice. And is this like a make or break kind of thing? If you guys don't get the partnership,
No,
would
no,
that
absolutely not.
stop you guys from?
No, no. At that point, when you click that link to learn more, we'll also have to teach them how to use a liquidity pool. And that's the challenge, right? So you'll have to not only learn how to create a wallet as a newbie, we'll also have to create a tutorial on for them how to use a liquidity pool and buy VALS tokens from a liquidity pool. And that second step is tricky. So let's say, for example, we have 1,000 players who click the link. If all they have to do is create a wallet, they can do that in about 2 or 3 minutes. But if we also have to teach them how to use a liquidity pool, that's going to be much more difficult. So that barrier to entry becomes a little bit harder, and we might lose a lot of them along the way. So we want as many of them to transition over as possible. And the fee on ramp, having that ability, as long as iOS gets their 30%, our understanding is we're not going to have any problems. It's very similar to, let's say, V-Bucks from Fortnite, right? You, V-Bucks was fine, but the moment V-Bucks said, hey, don't buy from the Apple Store, it's only available here, that's when the issue became. But actually, their lawsuit with Fortnite opened the door for what we're trying to do because although Fortnite was removed, the judge basically told Apple, hey, for small time developers, we're talking less than $100 million in revenue, they'll have the ability to do like the VALS token and everything like that is not going to be an issue for small time developers. So actually, that Fortnite situation, which a lot of people think is a negative, actually because of how it played out, is actually a positive. And Apple had to make a lot of concessions in that judgment in terms of like being able to offer different payment methods and different payment solutions and everything like that. But no, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. It would just make that pulling those people from the free to play to the play to earn harder because then we would have to teach them how to use a liquidity pool like the rest of us.
I absolutely love how you discuss barrier of entry, and I think mobile games is something that is so slept on this industry because you're right. It's a great way to onboard people outside of the space into NFTs and into crypto and into these crypto games.
Mm-hmm.
I know the craze. When people would play, God, I forgot it was called, like the farm games and all of those, like
Farmville,
just
yeah.
all. Yeah, all these different games I think are amazing. And so one of the things, obviously, your guys' art, like you said, is kind of influenced by Pokemon. So how do you guys avoid any type of strange situations arising from that?
Oh, you mean in terms of like copyright issues?
Yes.
Oh no, not at all. Because
Not
all
a-
of our art is just pure. We have I don't want to call it a factory line, but we have a production line for our artists. So how it works is we have Sinbad. He's not on the white paper either. We might dox him very soon because people are loving his artwork. But he's, I guess you could say, the creative thinker for our art, and he just draws rough sketches. So for example, we just did like a Llamaverse collaboration. He drew about 40 rough sketches and mockups for Llamaverse, and then what he does is he sends them to Brian. Brian's one of our illustrators. He's doxed on our Discord. And then Brian is the one, he goes through all of them and then he gets inspiration from all of these different mock-ups. And then he'll color it in really well. He's great at shading and he knows all of the lines. And then he'll send it to Zora. Zora will check the lines, make sure that the thickness of the lines are good, that the shading is consistent. And then we send out the approved artwork. So it's almost like a factory line. So it's not even like one person drew it. 3 people put their touches on it. And on top of that, it's like, yeah, a dragon's still a dragon, but like if you look at my display picture, that's a that's one of our legendaries. It's a water grass dragon, which is very rare. Never even see it before. These are just like some of the creative ideas that come from our from Sinbad, who's one of our he's one of our creative design artists. So yeah, like we're not copying any Pokemon. Like yeah, we have starters, which I guess Pokemon has starters and we have our starters, but I think if people look at our artwork, they wouldn't be able to compare it to anything out there.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And I'm glad you guys look at things that way and have tackled the art that way. Sometimes the space has gotten so sensitive with, copyright issues and what's allowed, what's a derivative, what's straight copying, that it's amazing when a team has answers for these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So we, oh, sorry, go on.
No, no,
Shoot.
no, you're good. You're
Yeah.
good.
So, obviously, at Platoon DAO, since we're not just like a whitelist, we have lots of whitelists here to distribute. We've worked with some of the biggest projects in the space. We've been really lucky, and I think a part of that is because we have different teams here. We have agents and we have alpha callers, and we have our community members that take such a deep dive into projects. That's something that we really preach here. That's why we even publish due diligence reports that are not from printer eye. We kind of urge the community to do this research, just to get different eyes, because obviously Prince and I are not always right. So we had a very important community question from somebody who did a little bit of a dive about Walsh Technologies, and they had found that on Steam you guys had made two previous games. One was the Animal Massacre, and the second one was Frame of Reference in 2019. So, how much of a differentiation is Antebellum Game to these games that have previously been made by Walsh Technologies?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, this question has come up before because when you go on their website, they have a few games there, and the games there are not exactly what we're building. For me, this is how I our partnership with Walsh Technologies came about. So when I had my conversation with Walsh Technologies, I looked obviously at what they were currently working on. And the last 2 years, Walsh Technologies has actually been working on an open world game. And for us, part of our vision is to create not just one game, but multiple games. So Walsh Technologies has been working on this open world game, and within their clause, within their NDA, they're able to show the game to potential clients. So I was able to get a sneak peek of what they've been working on. And he also told me that within their clause, they have something in there that they can use a lot of the foundational assets for this open world that they've been building. So I was very impressed by it. And for us, our vision is not to build one game. Our vision is to build multiple games. Our second game, part of our mint proceeds is actually going to go towards startup funds for our second game. And our second game is going to be on PC, open world. It's going to be in the same universe. We're going to release a new generation of Valerians, but it's going to be a whole different genre of gaming with full NFT interoperability between them. So when he told me that that game is coming out at the end of this year, and that's the same time we wanted to begin development of our second game, which I know sounds ambitious because our first game isn't even out yet, but and he told me he can use a lot of these foundational assets, save us a lot of time and money for the development of the second game. The partner and the timing worked out beautifully. It was very strategic for us to partner with them. And then in terms of developing a mobile game on Unity, it is something that they haven't done before. But what we have in our contract is a milestone-based contract. So we paid 10% down to begin development. So far, the development has just been on a foundational level. And then after that, it's all milestone-based. So each time we achieve one of our milestones, basically that's how the contract works. They receive the next set of payments. So it's all milestone-based after that. And if at any time during the development we see that the progress of the game is not to our liking or it's not to where we want it to be, we'll always make sure that we have reserve funds from the mint to make sure that we can hire whatever assets or whoever we need to make sure to get the game to where we want. At this point, I have full faith in their abilities to build a game. Wouldn't have given them 10% down to begin our contract and sign our contract with them had I not been. But we do understand that the games that they currently have are not a perfect match of what we're trying to build, but I'm very confident that they'll be able to do it. And if we hit any hitches along the road, we'll make sure that we have reserve funds to be able to hire whatever resources or assets we need to get the game where we want it to be.
That's amazing. Thank you for that answer. I know a lot of people in our community were curious, and actually, we have one more question regarding Walsh Technologies. So, are you also aware of Walsh Technologies' trouble in finding funding and investors as outlined in various Reddit posts by their founder and CEO? And does in any way that it trouble you that he's asked for legal advice regarding like a payday lender? And because you said you're pretty confident in their way of delivering a game, so I'm just curious to hear your response on this.
Well, that one is new to me, so I'll have to look into that one further. And if you guys have a link or something someone could send me, I would love to take a look at that as well. That one is a interesting one for sure. I know that Walsh Technologies currently has an investor who's investing them for creating a blockchain. So they currently have an investor that they're making their own blockchain for a certain company. I know that a large part of their team is working on that. And I also know that they have funding for the current open world game that they're working on. So I'd be very curious as to what year that was and to how accurate that is, but it's something I should definitely look into.
Thank you. See, guys, this is why we host these kinds of AMAs, and this is what's always going to differentiate great project founders and, people who aren't meant to be in this space by, you can ask them these hard questions and they're always patient, understanding, and answer them in a very, very respectful manner. So thank you so much for answering those questions.
Yeah,
And we had one last community question. Oh, Print, did
of
you want
course.
to ask it? You can go ahead.
No, no, no. You could go ahead. You're doing an amazing job.
The
um,
hard-hitting questions. I love it though. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Yes, I love that because I think it gives the community such a peace of mind. In this kind of climate in the space where sometimes you look at a project and everything checks out and it looks amazing and it's nothing of what you expect. Like recently we had so many whitelists here to Embers, and that was such a surprise to all of us here. So
Ember
stuff like
Swords?
that. I'm sorry?
Ember Swords?
Embers. I think it was
Oh,
just
that's a
called
different one.
Embers, right?
Okay, it might be a different one then.
Yeah, they were responsible, I guess, for running a series of rugs, even though the
Mm,
branding and the development looked very incredible up front. Um,
interesting.
s- so the last community question is, what role does Stephen Mifflin play? He has not developed any games, and you've obviously hired Walsh Technologies. So is it a fit? Like, what made you choose him? Is it cost efficient to employ him? Things like that. If you could go a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, Steve Mifflin for sure. So he was the liaison between James and I. So Steve Mifflin and I go back 8 months in the crypto space, and he's the one who made the introduction to James, and that's how our partnership began. And I spoke with Steve, and I told him that we'll keep him on for the development process, and he will basically be like a consultant slash advisor to Walsh Technologies and the liaison between us, making sure that the project runs smooth. In terms of actual like rendering models and working hands-on the game, he'll be more of a in a consultant role, and he's actually given us a lot of great feedback about the project already, and like he's reviewed our game mechanics. We had a game design document over 40 pages, right? Outlining all the details for the game that we wanted. And, that's a document that we reviewed with Steve Mifflin, for example. And then he would give us feedback and say, oh, you know what? Doing this is going to be challenging. You know what? If you go with real time strategy, you got to make sure that you encrypt your backend and make sure that on the backend, because hackers can attack the backend when you input an attack, it has to go to the server, get approved, and then come back, and hackers can find a loophole there and they can spam multiple attacks. That's just for example different feedbacks that we've got from Steve. So he's been a great consultant for us, reviewing our documents, giving us suggestions. For example, currently we're working on the camera angles, and Steve is exploring the possibilities of like panning the camera angle, giving us an option to see what we can do in terms of taking that camera angle instead of having a fixed one, giving players the option to kind of move it around. How cost effective would that be? How much would it cost? How much time would it take? What kind of resources would we need? So he's really in this consultant role. He works in between James and I run a lot of things by him. And he is very knowledgeable. If you guys ever have a chance to speak with him, he's very knowledgeable about the industry and in the space. He's basically committed his whole life to it, and he's recently graduated. He's also recently graduated with a degree in programming as well. So he might not have the hands-on work, but he has a lot of knowledge about the space.
Wow, Sharif, thank you for answering those questions, and in such a wonderful manner. We kind of got past all the more, I guess, spicy questions we had for you, as well as the
Absolutely.
basics. So I'm
Hmm.
just going to pass it back to Print if he has any last minute questions, and then I think we can open up the stage and start to invite some people up. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, the project's been getting a lot of attention on social media. How were you guys able to ramp that up and from 0 followers to where you're sitting at now?
I love that question because we on day one, and I love to share my AMA schedule. I think I had when we first opened our Twitter my first week, we had 4 or 5 AMAs scheduled the first week, and everything we've done has been AMAs. Our entire marketing campaign has been AMAs. We want to go out, we want to talk to people, and actually through AMAs, our project has evolved through these AMAs. This week we have about over 30, 35 AMAs scheduled. And ever since we've opened, we've been doing AMAs after AMAs. Our schedules have gotten busier and busier. I went from 1 a day to 2 a day to 3 a days. Now I'm at 5 to 6 a days. Today we're double booked. My project manager has to do an AMA. That's how we built. Our community has been completely organic, and the people in our community have either heard an AMA, listened to an AMA, or have a friend who listened to an AMA, and that's really how we've built. It's been completely organic, and you know, I like to think we have a very well informed community.
Amazing, amazing. It's good to hear. I guess we can open up the stage now for some more community questions. Let's see who we got here. Let's start with.
I know Keels has been waiting for a while. Keels, what's up?
Hi, thank you for having me, by the way. I was just, I have like 1 or 2 questions in regards to just the game itself.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I was looking at the white paper and I was seeing that there were levels of Valerians going up from levels 1 through 10, and the only way
Yep.
you can go up from a higher level is by burning lower level Valerians. I
Mm.
was wondering, uh, like, are we able to trade Valerians and or buy or sell Valerians, or is the only way possible to get Valerian, like a higher Valerian, is if you were to go from a lower to a higher tier?
Got it. That's a really great question. So, Valerian generations. So we have many different game modes within the game, but the two, I guess you could say, the two big earning capacity ones would be dungeons and PvP battles. Now you have limited daily earning capacity. You could play as much as you want, for example, PvP to go up and down the ladder as much as you like, but only a few of the matches will count towards your possible potential earning capacity. So if you want to win tokens, PvP is the place to go. If you win your battle, you get some tokens. If you want to get Valerians and weapons, then dungeons is where you want to go. And if you're able to clear the dungeon and beat the boss, they have drop rates for Valerians. So that's another way to get Valerians as well. Your land also summons Valerians. So if you have a fire land, it'll summon you 3 Valerians a week. But that doesn't mean it's going to be the Valerian you need to burn to evolve yours. That's why our own in-game marketplace was so important. And currently, our white paper says Polygon, full transparency. We were in talks with IMX and they offered us a great partnership. But now we're Neo Tokyo actually made some introductions to us for some people at Avalanche, and they're working on subnets. And the subnets are cross-chain. We can set up our own nodes. We can have it without any gas fees. So that is very intriguing as well. So we're actually working on getting a meeting with some of their developers to explore Avalanche as well, which is why we haven't announced the final layer 2 for us. But yeah, it's possible your land summons a level 2 or a level 3. It is possible, but if you look, it's the chances are low. If you look at the generation rate on the white paper,
Yeah.
the chances get lower and lower. So it is possible to get a level 2 or a level 3 summoned, but the likelihood is lower. And again, even if you summon the Valerian, the chances that it's the one that you need is not always high. So you need to use the marketplace. This is why it was so important for us to have our own marketplace in the game with the Val's token at its core, where you have it's like a trading card game. You got to trade the ones you don't need, buy the ones you do need. Really give it that trading card game vibe to get the Valerian team that you need.
Okay, but like, there's no like, I guess there's like, is your Valerian connected to your land? So like, if someone were to buy your land and that land had like a level, I don't know, 8 Valerian, would that be connected to it? Like, could you buy a higher up
Oh,
Valerian?
I see what you're
Um,
saying. No, no, Valerians are separate NFTs. So we
oh,
have 4 NFTs in our game. The land is one NFT, the champions is a separate NFT, Valerians are a
okay.
separate NFT, and the weapons are a separate NFT as well.
Okay, so
Yeah.
technically you could buy a higher up, like level 8 Valerian off of
Marketplace.
the market. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my last question was related to the I guess the fact that you say it's like 100% of all profits of our game are generated as profit distribution. I
Hmm.
was wondering specifically for the team token. You says 15% allocated for the team will be unlocked linearly over a 20-month period.
Hmm.
I was wondering like, yeah, your reasoning as to why you like applied that rule, I guess.
Yeah, we've actually, again, version 2 white paper is coming very soon. I was hoping to have it out today, but our brand director is just putting some final touches on it, so I hope it's out soon. But it actually has a tokenomics loop and it shows exactly how it works. So our team tokens are actually going to be locked for 2 years, but the unlock period begins 3 months after the launch of our game. So we wanted to tie our unlock period to the launch of the game, which was important for us as a team because we wanted to show everyone like our tokens will begin 3 months after launch. By then, everyone will know that this is a successful game. We have a strong player base, and if our game gets delayed, which obviously we're not planning for or hoping for, but if it gets delayed, so does our unlock period. So that was important for us. And did you have another question, or was it just how the team token unlock period works?
It was just that one mainly, and
Okay.
I guess I understand the staking genesis, team, initial decks, special events. The treasury, is that just like the marketplace, I guess?
So I
What,
should
what
I
would
should
be
Yeah, the treasury is actually broken up, and in the new white paper, it's much more clear. But the treasury, half the treasury, so 20% is a reward pool, and
Mhm.
20% is the treasury, which is for the operating expenses of the company. So how our tokenomics work is, earlier I mentioned that the number of tokens that go into circulation is directly linked with the active player base. So what I mean by that is, first, if you have pre-seed investors, right? And these pre-seed investors, if we were to, let's say, jump straight to creating a PC game, you would need a lot of money. And a mobile game is much cheaper and much easier to make. But if you were to make a PC game, much more expensive. So you would have to go to like C to 5, PokerStarter, or venture capitalist. And what happens at this point is that these venture capitalists, for example, would have a whole bunch of your tokens, and then it's like a looming cloud over your head waiting for their unlock period and when they're going to dump it. We don't have that problem. The other thing is our token doesn't have yield farming. So you won't be able to stake our token to make more tokens. And that's important for us because someone who buys our token to stake it, they're not part of our ecosystem in the sense that they're not an active player. So all the tokens they're generating are not correlated with an active player base. So for us, what happens is the tokens leave the reward pool. That's 20% of the treasury, but they've actually been separated now. And our new white paper shows the new breakdown, but it's 20% treasury, 20% reward pool. So how the token hierarchy works is the tokens first leave the reward pool, and they're given to players who complete dungeons or win a PvP battle, for example. And then these tokens, if they're spent in the game, that's considered a revenue stream. And that's added with all our other revenue streams. For example, marketplace royalties, in-game purchases, tokens purchased on the LP pool spent in the game. All our other revenue streams are all added together, and then that will be considered total revenue. And total revenue has priority of payments. So the first priority of payment for total revenue is to refund the reward pool, to make sure that we can continue to fund players beating dungeons and winning PvP battles. We want to make sure that we're able to continue to give them tokens. So the first priority and objective is to refund the reward pool. The second priority is operating expenses. So that's where the treasury comes in. So the second thing the total revenue funds is the treasury. That's priority 2. And then we have all the expenses listed on the new white paper talking about all the different things that it will fund. For example, operating costs, continued development of our second game, server costs, etc. And then whatever's left over after that goes into profit distribution, and that's what's distributed to the landowners. But we'll obviously be very transparent with what the expenses are, because we understand that at any point, if we have to be called upon to be listed as a securities, for example, because we're also setting up our own liquidity pool. We're based out of Toronto, not regulated by the SEC, but the potential is always there that we'll be called upon to be listed as a securities, and we need to make sure that our paperwork and our numbers are in order. So we'll always be transparent about all of those items. So yeah, so it's priority 1 for total revenues to refund the reward pool. Priority 2 is the treasury, operating expenses, marketing budget, etc. And then priority 3 is profit distribution for the Genesis landowners.
Yeah, okay, that actually makes, and that was actually a lot more detailed than the white paper. Obviously, it's the initial white paper. That makes sense.
Yeah, no
Thank you
problem.
so much for answering my question. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll just add one more thing to that point. What it does is it kind of links the tokens that go into distribution with the active player base. So the more players you have, the more tokens are leaving the reward pool because they need to fund the players that are winning dungeons. The less players you have, the less tokens that are leaving the reward pool. So you have this correlation between the tokens that are going into circulation with the player base. And that was important for us because we don't have the yield farmers and we don't have the pre-seed investors, aside from our Genesis landowners, of course, who are the exception.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think it's amazing to focus more on the people that are actually active, and rather than just, I guess, passive, or like just unactive members.
Play to earn, not stake to earn.
Yeah. Thank you very much for answering my questions.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Keels, for asking those questions. And actually, Sharif, we have Dark and Stormy on the stage. She actually is the one who connected us together. Before I kind of pass off the mic to her, I wanted to ask a question. Where is the liquidity pool funding coming from?
It's going to be from the mint. So our mint has basically 5 priorities. Priority 1 for the mint is the development for the game, the remaining development for the game. Priority 2, and this is assuming a sellout. So if we sell out, priority 1 is the development of the game. Priority 2 is funding of the liquidity pool. Priority 3 is marketing campaign, marketing expenses. Priority 4 is startup funds for game number 2. And priority 5 is reserve funds. And then the final priority, of course, is the team. So we're looking at currently, based on our budget on Cello, about a 90% reinvestment rate.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for answering that question. Dark and Stormy, do you want to take over for a sec?
For sure. Thank you so much, Cleo. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Thanks so much. I'm obviously a really big fan. I've been in the server for a while now, and I really liked everything I saw, even the way you ran Discord. Like, it's a really professional team, and I like the art and like the white paper. Everything's there for me. So thanks so much for this opportunity. What I wanted to ask, because obviously I did listen to some of your AMAs, and what really intrigued me was you were talking about integration of, for example, Neo Tokyo characters into the game as champions, I believe you said. So I would like to hear a little bit more about that.
Oh, we haven't confirmed Neo Tokyo. We have another big project that we are announcing tomorrow, hopefully. But we haven't confirmed Neo Tokyo yet. I will say preemptively, we did create a champion for them, and we sent it to Neo Tokyo, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll be able to make that announcement. But we haven't got a confirmation from Neo Tokyo. We did have an AMA with them, and it was actually the mods of Neo Tokyo, well, the one who hosted the AMA, who put us in touch with the team from Avalanche, the blockchain developers at Avalanche. So that's actually how that conversation came up. They've been very supportive of the project and they've given us a lot of feedback. And, you know, IMEX offered a great package, the sponsorships, the 24/7 support. They offered us their blockchain engineers to help with development. IMEX offered us a great deal of support and they are still on the table, but we would as a company not feel like we're doing our due diligence if we do not explore this Avalanche and the subnet route. It's something new, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work. So we have to make sure we do our due diligence, and we're just trying to get some meetings sorted with them, and that was thanks to Neo Tokyo for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just wondering if maybe you can also talk a little bit about how it would actually work within the game, Valerian characters versus maybe an integrated character from a different collaboration, how that work.
Yeah, they're going to be just like any other Valerian, but their summoning rate is going to be rare. So for example, Kaijus are wolf types and Gojira is lightning types. So if you have a lightning land, you might summon a Gojira Valerian, and if you have a fire land, you might summon a Kaiju Valerian. So, but keep in mind all in-game collaboration summonings from lands are going to be rare. So if you look on our Valdex, each Pokemon, I call them Pokemon just to make it simpler, each Valerian slash Pokemon has like a rarity, drop rate, common, sorry, it's like common, rare, epic, legendary, and they each have a different chance of being summoned on a land. And in-game collaborations will always be rare, so it'll always be hard to get. But holders of that project will get a booster pack. So they'll get a booster pack holding some of those Valerians and a unique champion skin. And those champion skins will only be available to holders of that project. So anyone else who wants to get one, they'll either have to buy that NFT or they'll have to buy it off the marketplace if someone's selling. But yeah, it will just be like a Valerian in the game. Like Llamaverse, we announced today, they're grass type. So if you get a grassland, one day your grassland might summon one of the llamas.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, we got Blaze and Blades up here. You can ask your question.
Thanks very much for spending the time with us. I appreciate your detailed answers. And in fact, one of the previous speakers answered my main question regarding the economy. But one thing that hasn't been touched on that I was wondering was, have you been thinking about scalability of your team in the future? Obviously, you're talking about increasing your user base. You're talking about a second game. I know you have resources with companies, whether it's Walsh, et cetera. But given maybe the unusual team dynamic with family and everything else, have you thought about when you're going to be split between a couple games and your user base is a lot bigger, how you might be scaling up your team to be meeting whether it's marketing needs or customer service needs, et cetera? Have you thought about how a team expansion might look?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we just hired 3 new team members, and I think round 1 of interviews, we did 60 interviews, and we ended up picking 2 people. And graphic designers are hard to find, and you can find their socials in our announcements, and they're very talented, and they have like 15 years, one of them, and I think like 12 years another in the industry. And even our illustrators very talented as well, and tons of experience at working with big companies. You can find all their information on our announcements. But my point is, first round of interviews was 60. We found 2 people. Second round of interviews was about 40 interviews, and we found 1 person. So it's very hard to find the talent that you're looking for, especially when it comes to game developers, graphic designers. Obviously, at Walsh Technologies, they have a lot of connections, so we'll be relying on them if they need something, to find the talent that they need. They have a lot of connections and resources in the space. But like you said, on the other end of things, on the marketing side, if we need an accountant or a CRA or whatever the case may be, absolutely we're going to have to develop our team. And that's why it was so important for us when we laid out our budget to have those reserve funds for the company to make sure that if we're in a position where we need to and we haven't began making profit, let's say our game hasn't launched yet even, but we're seeing our Discord grow, we're seeing our player base grow, all of a sudden we're going to need to make sure that we're prepared for an even bigger player base than we started. That's why it's so important for us to have those reserve funds in place to make sure that we can adapt and be agile.
And thank you very much. And just, I want to make sure I heard correctly earlier when you were talking to Keels that that second version of the white paper, it's basically imminently. You said today, but maybe next few days
Uh,
we should expect something.
to be on the safe side, not to put my brand director under pressure, I'm going to say
Of
Wednesday,
course,
the latest. Yeah, because she's obviously
awesome,
very busy as well. So I'm going to say Wednesday for sure. And it's going to be announced on our Discord. And it's going to go into detail about tokenomics, bot prevention. Actually, let me just see if I pull it up here. Let me look at the menu real quick. So my table of contents, I got our marketing strategy, tokenomics and sustainability, bot and exploitation prevention mechanisms, and game mechanics. And they're going to go into a lot of detail for each one of these subjects.
excellent. Thank you again very much for your time. And
Yeah,
I can speak at least for me. I truly appreciate the very detailed answers that you've been able to provide here today.
thank you
I'll let
guys.
other people talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blaze and Blades. Thank you, Shuri, for those detailed answers. They are really incredible. So before I pass the mic off to the next person, we had another question in the crowd. So obviously, we know the climate of the space is investors these days are super impatient. How do you plan to kind of sustain morale and interest in your community during the initial dip while everybody is waiting for the game to release?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say we've taken some preventative measures, if you will. And I would say our AMAs and the way we chose to grow our Discord, I guess you could say, are preventative measures in the sense that a lot of the people who are in our community and a lot of the ones who are whitelist are actually directly from the AMAs we've done. We've made a conceited effort, a conscious effort, sorry, to make sure that the ones who attend our AMAs have a high success of getting whitelist, and of course those who are early in our Discord who are joining AMAs and following our project along. So we'd like to think that our community is one who understands what they're buying. They understand our timelines. We've been very transparent throughout the whole process. So it's not one of those, hey, something is minting today at 7. Should we buy it? You know, and then you go in and buy it 2 minutes before you jump on 2 minutes before public sale starts. So we're trying to basically say that, hopefully through the maybe 70 or 80 AMAs I've already done, 30 or 40 that I have scheduled just this week, and the ones next week as well, that our community at least hopefully joins one and understands what we're about. Preventative. But after that, we have tons of plans because it's not just the game that's coming out later. Staking isn't going to be available right away either. And that was important because Valerian generation, we cannot begin it too early. Valerians are the barrier to entry for anyone who doesn't own land. So Valerians are important as well. And we don't want to just flood the supply of Valerians with no utility, with no burn mechanisms, right? Our generation rates are based off of the burn mechanism also being in place. So we want to make sure that we begin staking at an appropriate time, which is about 6 weeks before the launch of the game. So we have both of these challenges. We do have some cinematic trailers. We're planning some cinematic trailers. We're going to plan a gameplay trailer, of course. We're also going to be doing our naming contest throughout. We all our Valerians, they all have a one of one. And we have a one of one collection on OpenSea. And we do naming contests every day or every other day. And whoever chooses the name right gets the Valerian. We're going to have faction battles. Factions are important. When you join a Discord, you chose hero or conqueror based on the lore. And once you choose, it's permanent. So we'll have tons of faction battles. Make sure that we keep the community engaged with exclusive giveaways for the game that they can use. We're also going to have our community be part of our beta testers. Beta testing is going to be important to make sure the game is balanced, bug-free, secure, etc. So we'll be sending applications out. But one of the things that we're doing that's very interesting is our game development progress is going to be viewable live. So for those of you that are familiar with the storyboard, our storyboard for the game, and a storyboard is a place where you can kind of monitor. If you have like 20 people working on one big project, what you do is you take all the tasks and you make all the tasks cards. and then you say, okay, this card is in progress. Okay, this card is done, which means this task is done, or this task is behind, or etc. So a lot of companies use this to stay agile and be able to have a lot of people working on one project very easily and efficiently. That storyboard is actually going to be live for us. Never heard of anyone else doing it before, but we're gonna. Ours is on Trello, so we're gonna put that live, and our players will actually be able to monitor the development of the game. So if we fall behind, they'll know. But maybe even before us, they'll be monitoring the storyboard and be like, they're behind on this task. So where that's one part of our commitment for the community and transparency. And also, if we have to make any decisions where we as a company are deciding and we have a big decision to make that's going to be impactful for the community. We're not a DAO, but we're going to be hosting discussions with our community. We'll make an announcement saying, hey, here's what we're thinking about. Here's the problem. Here's the challenge. Here's our possible solutions. We want to hear what you think. And then have a discussion with the community, invite our Genesis landowners to come in and talk. Make sure that they feel like, not just feel like, make sure that they understand that they're part of this development as well. Hear their feedback, hear their opinion. You never know, you might just get an amazing idea out of it. It's a brainstorming session with hundreds of people. Something great can come out of it for sure. So we have a lot of things planned, but we do understand there's a time frame, but hopefully we're able to manage it.
Awesome. Thank you. That's an amazing question. I like the fact that people are going to be able to kind of track the progress of the project. I haven't seen any project do that. We have Classic Voodoo up here. I think he's been waiting a little while to ask a question, so you can go ahead now. We can't hear you. I don't think your mic is connected or something. While he's taking a look at that, Logic, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again for doing this AMA. Great questions, great answers. This has all been so informative. So my question, and this is the first AMA that I've attended or heard from Antebellum, so I'm sorry if you've already been asked this question and it's already been answered before.
Yeah, no problem.
But you mentioned, that a lot of the inspiration for the art, has been drawn from Pokemon. Are there any concerns about DMCA? Because I know that there's people, in our space who have gotten into projects and, gotten in really heavy. And then all of a sudden, because of a DMCA, the project goes to zero. So I'm sure you've probably already had this question before, and apologize for not already knowing the answer, but thank you again in advance.
Yeah, no problem. I actually realize now that I completely misspoke. What I meant to say was the idea of like catching Valerians. And that's why when the question came up earlier too, I was like, is someone saying our Valerian looks like a Pokemon? Because I didn't think any of them do. Like they're all unique. But now I understand. I misspoke. What I meant to say was the game was inspired by Pokemon when it comes to Valerians in the sense that like you kind of summon them and you level them up and you evolve them and they have different move sets. The actual artwork is completely it's all like our creative design artists and many different artists work on it. But no, that's all original. Just the idea of leveling up and evolving, that's kind of what was inspired by Pokemon.
I think he got rugged or something. But yes, thank you so much for
Yeah, no problem.
thank you so
I
much for
misspoke. I should have
clarifying.
been more clear too. Yeah, I realize what I said now.
That's okay. Thank you for that clarification. I think it clarifies a lot. Okay, Classic Voodoo's up here. Let's hopefully see if his mic is working again.
I hope you guys can hear me now.
Yeah,
Yes.
How are you guys doing today?
good.
Wonderful. How are you?
Good. So I just had two questions. So first of all, since you're like collabing with all these other projects like you mentioned, so I can just own one of those NFTs and like get airdropped one of your Antebellum NFTs later on, right?
No. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
So if that is the case, so why would I actually mint one of your like the Pokemons or like the Valerians during your mint date instead of like just like going and buying their NFTs, because that way I can have like two NFTs instead of one, right?
Got it. Yeah, that isn't exactly how it works. So how it works is you meet your Genesis land. And again, a lot of people actually have a misconception about what the real value of the Genesis land is. It's actually not the Valerians that it summons or the weapons. Of course, there's value in that too. The real value of the Genesis land is that you get your share of 30% of the company over a 2-year period. So because we're going to mobile, because the funds required to build a mobile game are not as significant as a PC game, there was no need for us to go to pre-seed investors or venture capitalists. Our Genesis landowners are the pre-seed investors, and they get treated as such. And I would say even better, because not only do they get their share of 30% of our company over a 2-year period, they also get 100% of the in-game profits of our company forever. As long as we're making games, they're getting the profits, the accumulated profits of all of them. So for us, that's what the real value of the Genesis land is. And then owning owning an NFT that we've done a collaboration with will get you exclusive benefits. So for example, if you own a lightning land, then you will summon Valerians. And one day you might summon a Gajira or a wolf. You might wake up one day and that's what your land summoned, and you'll be very excited because those are rare. But if you own one of their NFTs, you'll get an exclusive booster pack for free. Right? So you'll get an exclusive booster pack and an exclusive champion that's only available to their holders.
Okay. So let's suppose I want to buy land, but I don't actually want to like mint it on the first date and just like wait till it like normally a collection is normally dropping like post reveal, right? So what like how would you encourage people to buy lands and not wait for the post reveal dump or something like that?
That's a great question. I actually really like that question. So this was something we've thought about as well, because back to my point earlier, the real value of the land comes from the tokens, your share of the 30% and the profit distribution. And all 10,000 lands are treated equally. So it doesn't matter if you have an epic land or a rare land or a common land, the token distribution remains the same. So there's actually the common land. If you pull a common and you're like, oh, it's just a common, when it comes to profits, when it comes to your share of the company, it's the same as an epic or a rare. The epic and the rare just have a chance to summon more Valerians and more rare Valerians, let's say. More rare Valerians and a few more Valerians every week. But I always try to tell people the Valerians and the weapons are secondary. The primary benefit of the land is always going to be the tokens and the profits. Those are the two key benefits, and the rest I would say is secondary benefits. So yeah, post reveal, if you really understand what you're minting your share of the company, and that doesn't change whether it's a common or a rare. And same with the profits. So we personally do not expect any post reveal dump at all.
So if you had to put it in like the Web2 terms, you're basically getting a stock of the company, and then what you're like receiving later is kind of acts like the dividends that you receive over time. Like
Right.
you're the okay, all right, makes
Yeah,
sense. All right, thank you guys so much.
yeah, no problem. And that's why I said if it comes down to us having to be treated as a securities, we are prepared for that, and we're also okay with that. And we'll make sure, yes, it's more audits and more red tape, but at the end of the day, we'll make sure that all our paperwork and all our numbers are in place, and we'll be prepared for that step if it comes to it. It's not something that we would shy away from.
All right, thank you so much for your answer. Really enjoyed the AMA.
No problem.
Hopefully, I'll get whitelisted soon, and like really excited to play our game.
Yeah,
Thank you guys so much for your
don't dump
time.
it post reveal either, man. If you get a comment, hang on, it's gonna have value, man.
Yeah, I actually haven't sold any of my NFTs so far, so I think I'm good
Amazing.
on that field.
That's a good play. That's a good play, man.
All right, thank you guys. You guys have a wonderful
Yeah,
time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
no problem. I wish I didn't sell my NFT worlds, but here I am.
We win, we lose some. It's
That's
all
right.
good.
You got it,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. All right, take care. Bye.
You as well.
All right, we're getting some amazing questions up here, Sharif. We'll let one more question from J Mark here, and I think we can start to wrap up the AMA. I know you guys are super busy, and we appreciate you taking the time to come and answer
Of
all
course,
of our questions.
of course.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Sam? Good. So my question was for we have heroes and conquerors. It's an end game question. Will we be able to hold multiple accounts if we wanted to do the storyline of both characters?
Oh, you've checked the lore. So he's referring to the two factions. Yes, there's two factions in our Discord that are permanent, but also when you join the game, it's permanent and you can't switch. And the story mode gets adjusted. So we have two legendaries, Obsidian, who's the guardian. He goes a little bit evil, and Azargon, and the heroes will help with Azargon, and the conquerors will help with Obsidian. And your story mode changes a bit depending on which faction you choose. If you play on two accounts, there's basically like nothing we can do to stop it. But as long as it's not a bot or anything like that, I don't see anything wrong with it. Now, you don't have to play our game 24/7. I've made like as far as earning capacity goes, we're trying to find out what's the perfect amount of time to be needed to be played to maximize your earning capacity, but it's going to be between 30 minutes, an hour maximum, but we're probably thinking 30 to 45 minutes and you can maximize your earning capacity. So if you do that on two accounts, you have two wallets, that's fine. And in one regard, we do have a bot prevention, an exploitation prevention measure, where you would have to invest in both accounts. You won't be able to take the Valerians from one account that you've spent money on and evolved and leveled up and transfer it to the other account. You won't be able to do that. Well, you can, but there's a 24-hour delay. So if you send the Valerians from one account to another account, they won't be usable for 24 hours. And 24 hours is because that's how much time it takes for the daily energy limit to reset. So if you transfer to another account, this is how we prevent someone transferring Valerians from one account to another account to basically maximize their daily earning capacity through like 7 or 8 different accounts. But if you do it organically and naturally, like you create two accounts and then you invest in both accounts and you're using your Vals tokens on both accounts to further your in-game progression and you're spending, let's say, the 45 minutes each day on both accounts, you're basically two different players. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. And if you're not a bot, I don't see why you can't experience both sides of it.
Awesome. Yeah, that was my question. I just had one more too. For
Yeah.
the Valerians, they're gonna have move sets. So are we going to be able to re-roll for different moves?
That's actually came up in a previous AMA and it's something that we're considering. So for those of you that don't know, two Valerians on face value might look the same, but different Valerians, the same Valerian can have different move sets. I don't want to say one move set is more rare, but the different move sets they go into the strategy depending on how you want to use them and what kind of team you're building. You might want a Valerian with a different move set. So re-rolling, if we do implement that strategy, it's something we're going to have to look into for sure. If we offer that option, there will be a Vals token cost associated with it, which I'm okay with. More utility for the Vals token. I'm always looking for that. But it's something that we're considering for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much, Sheree, for taking your time to come and speak with us again.
No problem.
Everybody in the chat is echoing that they're really excited about your project. So we're really excited to see what you build. We're excited